Hello and welcome to another Comics Pals film review. We've got a full house today. We've got Kale,
What's up, Spider Dogs?
Marco,
EO.
and Tyler.
I really like the Spider Cat.
And of course, I'm Sean. We are here to talk about arguably the most anticipated sequel in the history of comic book films. Of course, I am referring to none other than Batman and Robin.
Yes, let's go. You know what? Love this film. Can't get enough of it. Needed it.
Poison Ivy.
You know how I know? You know how you guys should know I'm lying? I would never, ever agree to do a podcast about that movie. Instead, we're here to talk about Across the Spider-Verse, the hotly anticipated sequel to Into the Spider-Verse. This, of course, is, the Miles Morales vehicle that features just about every iteration of Spider-Man ever. And if you love the character, then guaranteed there's something here in this film that will sate your Spider-Man fandom, because everybody is here pretty much. Phenomenal cast, top to bottom. Shameik Moore playing Miles Morales, Haley Steinfeld, Gwen Stacy, Oscar Isaac as Miguel O'Hara. The list goes on and on. Tremendous cast, but how good is this movie? That's what we're here to talk about. Before we get into that, of course, there is a game that we play here on every film review, and that's the Rotten Tomatoes game. These three are going to guess the critic score and the audience score for Across the Spider-Verse, and we're playing by Price is Right rules, which means whoever gets closest to the actual score without going over will be the winner. So who wants to start us off?
You pick, Sean.
I will.
Okay. Oh, all right.
I'm coming in hot. Critics, I'm going to say, now I saw it a couple of days ago, it was a 97. I'm going to say it's gone down a little. I'm going to say 95.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the audience score, I think, is also going to be stupid high. I'm going to say a 94.
Okay.
I'm going to say audience 95. You said 96 for critics?
No, I said 95 critics.
Damn. I'm going to say 94 critics.
So it's 94 critics, 95 audience?
Correct.
Cool, got it.
I'm going to say 97 audience, and I'm going to say 93 for critic.
Wow, okay. That was fast. You guys were ready with those. The answer is, with a tomato meter, with 242 reviews and a tomato meter of 95%, that puts Kale right on the money for the tomato meter. But the audience score, you guys, well, everybody but Tyler underestimated the audience, because that was 97. So Tyler was on the money on that.
Damn.
Yeah, and so the nature of the game, that means Tyler wins.
Wait, but they're both on the money.
Well, Kale went under on the audience score by 3, whereas Tyler was only under on the tomato meter by 2 and accurate on the audience score. So he just barely eked it out.
Wow. High grades from everybody. I'm cool that was the expectation.
Mm-hmm. Right. No one even sniffed the 80s. So good job on that. Let's talk about the movie. We're not going to do spoiler free. So this is full spoilers. If you haven't seen it yet and you care about the spoilers, you're probably not going to want to listen to the whole conversation. If you've seen it already, stick with us. Or if you don't care about the spoilers, stick with us. We're happy to discuss this film. If you want to support the show, patreon.com/thecomicspals is the best way to do that. We go live to talk about comics and the news and the industry every single Saturday at 10:15 a.m. Eastern. On Thursdays, we have a show called Pals Pulls, 6 p.m. Eastern. That's where we review comics themselves. We've got a great Discord server with a great community. You should come hang out if you want to talk comics, films, anything really. We have great people there who are dying to chat with you. All right, let's talk Spider-Verse. I want to start because I did not like the first one very much.
That's right.
Yes. And that is probably one of the takes I've had, one of the opinions that I've had that people have disagreed with the most. Of course, Into the Spider-Verse was very popular. I'm cool with that. I came into this one willing to shed my feelings about the first to give this one a fair shake. And I think that for probably 60 to 70% of this movie, I was enthralled. I think that for the most part, I was amazed by the voice acting. I thought the cast did a great job. I was impressed by the balls of the writers and the director and the entire creative team to tell a story that goes in so many different directions and has so many, different characters and cameos, and to do it in a way that feels very respectful for the most part of the source material, and actually has something to say, in my opinion, about the source material, which is never the case, right? Like, how many superhero movies do we see that actually have commentary about the comics? They don't really even care about the comics for the most part. So I appreciated that a lot as well. And there were some sick cameos. I cannot wait to talk more about Ben Reilly and his look. But I did have a lot of problems with the end of the movie and the way that the movie changes toward the end. But we'll talk about that more. But that's my upfront opinion about it.
So what would you? I guess we give our scores at the end.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I feel similar, actually. I really enjoyed the first one. I think I really, got what you're supposed to get out of the first one. This one, for me, I think I had a lot of trouble with the meat of the movie. I liked what it had to say about Miles.
Yeah.
But then, the engine of the story, to me, I felt completely antithetical to Spider-Man. And
I don't disagree.
That really frustrated me.
I can't wait to hear what you have to say about that.
Yeah, I'll leave it there. Also, the animation is a visual feast, truly. Yeah. But it is a constant barrage of. I still have a headache from. We just recorded the main show. I saw it right before that, and I am suffering.
That's right. Yeah.
So if you're prone to visual issues or lights and stuff, I imagine there will be seizure warnings or whatever, but heads up, it's a lot.
Apparently there was and I was reading online, there's been an issue with sound for a lot of screenings for people where a lot of the dialogue was not audible. You guys didn't experience any of that, did you?
You know what's funny? I think I might have caught a moment of lag.
Interesting.
A moment where a building was collapsing, and I was like, "Wait, that's."
Yo, I thought I had that same experience. That's so funny.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I was like, huh, that's kind of fucky.
I think that's because they play with frames per second a lot per character, so there's a lot of fighting frames.
Yeah, absolutely.
For a lot of things, and I did notice it a lot more in this movie.
Yeah,
because in the first one it was just Peter and Miles. You could maybe see a difference there. This one's well, we got to do that with a billion different Peters at once. So
yeah. That plus different textures in the background, so there's just a lot going on in the screen itself. So I can imagine that from a compression standpoint is crazy to even think about.
Sometimes it felt like I was oh man, is my PC strong enough to run this?
Yeah.
Is my brain strong enough to run this?
That's what that moment felt like. It was oh, somebody's computer just crashed.
For me, I generally really like this movie, but I have I've had friends ask me oh, do you like it? And my gut almost says I don't know yet, because it's not done. And I like and I don't like that. you mentioned the ballsiness of it, Sean. Like in modern day to do this, I think that is ballsy. It is a hard cliffhanger. Our arcs aren't even done. Like it's not a clean cut at all.
Fuck, should we talk about that now? Like, right. Well, Marco, why don't you give your like upfront thoughts, and then we can, because I have to talk about that.
So I'm kind of I'm much higher on the film. It sounds like than you guys. Everything about this worked for me. The animation, the character development, the story. I had a blast just the entire time, and for me, I think, I think I don't know as many of these characters should really like attach some sort of preconceived notion to how they act or how they might manifest or should manifest in the film. So a lot of these, like Spider-Man 99, like some of my first time really engaging with him outside of like some random stuff here or there we did for like this the SpiderVerse book club. So I took it at face value, and for me it worked. I love the characterization. I like how it felt. Like the good guy was kind of the bad guy, but with intention to do good, and that felt a little complicated, and that was different. And I appreciated the way that they managed to get that story told and how it's not done. I love the ending as well. So everything about this was functional and energetic.
Can I start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. To start the ending conversation, Marco and I were talking about the hard cutoff. The hard cliffhanger is the word. And he said movies don't do that anymore. And I said, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
We've had 10 years of superhero movies that do exactly that. They don't do it as well. But almost every Marvel movie we have is a to be continued.
Okay. I'm glad you said that, because that's exactly what I want to tackle right now.
Okay.
So,
All right. Okay.
So to me, there's a big difference between a movie that has a clear-cut beginning, middle, and end that satisfies its arcs within that movie, right? But also leaves the door open for more, right? The Dark Knight has a sequel. It is not ended on a cliffhanger, right? The Empire Strikes Back has a sequel. It does not end on a cliffhanger. It ends in a very specific way. The heroes took an L. They lost. That's the arc of that movie. Now, of course, they go on to win later, but that movie is complete. This movie does not feel complete. Why? Because none of the arcs that it establishes resolve. They're not. It's not clean. It's intended for you to see the next one, and if you don't, I don't see how you could say you got a full experience out of this movie.
There's no climax.
Yeah, there's no climax.
This is edging the movie. I would say the clearest arc ending we get is maybe Spider-Gwen and her dad, because that kind of in a way bookends the movie. You know, we start with a very long cold open with Spider-Gwen. We get her whole story, and it kind of like before we get to the real cliffhangery part of it, that kind of gets cleaned up. So in a way, it maybe fixes that story a bit. But in terms of like the Spider-Verse, like it almost feels like I didn't watch a full movie. And that's not to say I didn't like it, because I really did enjoy this. And I bet once we get beyond the Spider-Verse as a whole, this is going to be phenomenal. But I was left being like, all right, well, where's the structure? Like I feel like the structure is there, but I can't quite see it because I haven't seen the rest of it. So I don't even want to say I was frustrated, because I think that feels negative. I wasn't. It was cool hearing hearing the audience groan at the end. You know, my screening, everyone like screamed, like, no! I heard one guy say, so this is what Star Wars fans feel like. I'm like, oh yeah, welcome.
Dude, somebody in my theater should have just like, what the fuck is this shit? I was cracking up. So many people in my audience were just like upset the moment it said to be continued.
And like I knew there was going to be a third one, but I didn't know it would be like it would be a two-parter, really.
Yeah.
You know,
Everyone I went to see it with was turned off by the way that ended.
Damn.
Yeah, we were all like, "What the fuck was that?" Because it's not that what happens is bad, right? Like,
no,
I have so much to say about like Miles, getting trapped in that alternate world and what that symbolizes and means. And I have so many thoughts. This movie made me think a lot, right?
Yeah.
But I still want my movies to do movie shit, and I still want them to feel resolved. And like, I guess maybe that's not fair for me as a lowly audience member to impose my beliefs about what a movie ought to be and do onto the creators who want to tell their story. They have all rights to do that. What I'm saying is I have the right to look at that and go, I don't know. I have the right to go, hey, maybe this movie was too stuffed. Maybe things could have been reworked, because that chase between Miles and all the spider people was so long.
We get 2 expositional openings.
Yeah.
That was an hour.
Right. Like you couldn't chop any of that to give the movie a cleaner resolution. It's hard for me to believe.
and it's weird because I felt the length of this movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially once, because in my head I'm thinking of structure and I'm thinking of how the movie works, and I'm like,
Mhm.
I feel like we're in build-up, but we've been here for a while.
Yeah.
And then that's when the cliffhanger. That's when the movie ends.
Right.
And I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I was right in terms of the actual structure of the movie, but it's not the structure of a movie. Rather, it's structure of 2 parts. And like the 2 openings, you get Miles's opening and you get Gwen's. That really opens it. I enjoyed both of them a lot. I love the character work in it. But again, it's just like, yeah, I was like, when are we getting to the plot here?
Man, it was so much character work. Like
Mm.
I liked Miles's mom a lot.
Yeah, I love his
I
parents.
don't need to know how much she loves her kid this much. Like, I get it.
Right. And I kind of feel like that's a story. And obviously they have more to say about Miles and his relationship with his parents. But I feel like so much of it played out in this movie that it's almost like you couldn't, separate that out a little more if you have 2 films. But I guess they're clearly trying to do something different in the next one. I don't know.
Yeah. And my thinking was also that, like Tyler said, they sort of make it a Gwen film by framing it, the beginning and then giving her a full arc. Miles' whole story was into the Spider-Verse. And then it's all recapped in his exposition
Right
at the beginning of this, which is really frustrating. But then I realized, like, also at the tail end, when he gets stuck in this alternate dimension, you're slammed with all of that exposition that needs to be told right then. And it needs to have that impact when you realize, oh, wait a minute.
Right.
So I'm conflicted about it. Like, I felt it. And there was a point where I was like, all right, if this is still parental stuff, I'm just going to go to the bathroom.
Damn.
And I was right. I didn't miss anything.
It's interesting to hear that you guys felt the length. Like, I didn't. Literally, the punch on the sandbag. That, for whatever reason, I'm like, oh hey, like, hold on a second. We've been here a little bit. Like, is the movie about to end? That's kind of crazy. That'd be kind of crazy.
That's
No way. Like, how close are we? And then it just doesn't. I'm like, damn. That it upended my expectation enough that I took that so well, and the pacing up to get to that point. I took it as just like well done storytelling. For me, I didn't feel that issue with pace.
It's very
And
Empire Strikes Back of these.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're definitely not the first person I heard say that.
But Empire certainly feels like complete.
Yeah.
Complete, but there's because like Han is in kryptonite, or not kryptonite, carbonite at that point, so
Hell yeah.
There are definite things, and it's dire at the end too. And whereas New Hope, it was just Star Wars before. It had to be its own thing.
But you look at Infinity War, right? You look at that and you go, wow, this is a movie that literally ends with half of life within the whole universe gone. Most of our heroes, half of our heroes gone, right? But you watch that movie and you're resolved with the story that it was telling in that singular film.
Yeah.
You do not actually have to watch Endgame. You could just not. You would have a complete story. Hey, shit, Thanos won.
Yeah.
That's it. Whereas you can't do so. That's why I reject the comparisons, because those movies resolve, and this just doesn't. And it's like, man, that shit was so hot. I gotta wait. I don't know if it's gonna be a year. I'm assuming it's gonna be a year.
Yeah.
I gotta wait a year to see it resolve. I would have taken an extra hour. The movie was 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I feel like you could have reasonably cut. You could make an argument for 20 minutes being cut. You cut 20 minutes and give me an hour and make a full movie out of it, I'm sold.
Shit, I'd say an hour.
Damn.
And I'm not saying that content was bad.
Right.
Just that, there's an editing to art. There's an art to editing.
I also wonder if the artsy response to this is, we wanted to make it feel like a comic book. You got to wait for the next issue. Comic book cuts aren't clean per issue.
You wait a month.
I don't think so.
Or if it's SpiderMan, you wait, and you're only waiting like 2 weeks. So.
Right.
Well, I really feel like, especially if you've been following the production of all this since Into the Spider-Verse, I think they really wanted to tell the full story. They wouldn't have split it if it wasn't worth it.
Right.
And it wasn't always split, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
That was a thing that they, decided they needed to do. We will talk more about the ending, I'm sure, a little bit later, but let's go all the way back to the beginning. We start, as Kale mentioned, with this, probably 20-minute open with that centers on Gwen. I really love that stuff. Gwen is a fantastic character. It's wild to me that, there's been more character development, in my opinion, for Gwen Stacy, the that character idea across the SpiderVerse movies than in the comics, in the sense that the Gwen Stacy that we all know and love, what's her character development really? She's a smart, girl that Peter dates and then dies.
That's why Stan wanted to kill her. He's like, where else can I go?
So, but this version, she has so much depth to her. She's very interesting and compelling. I was hooked for all of that. At some point, I was like, where's Miles at? I kind of want to, I want to get to Miles. But I do understand why this scene needed to be there. Why this sequence, rather, needed to be there.
And I think it was gorgeous. I was a fan of that early Spider-Gwen book by Latour and Robbie Rodriguez.
Yeah.
And the way that they managed to make Gwen's universe almost look identical to some of those Robbie Rodriguez, Rico Renzi covers was impressive. Just the way that the color worked, and color changed depending on Gwen's mood for the universe. Everything was a wash in these pastels, and some of it you could even see the watercolors leaking, and running in the background. And the way it was distinctly different from the stuff that we saw in Miles' universe. I loved it. I thought it was great.
I mean, storytelling through just background, right? That was phenomenal. I think that gets done throughout the course of the film, and this as the opening, it's oh, okay, you're setting an expectation that stuff's going to be from an animation standpoint different and evolved.
Yeah, absolutely. And the animation was something that I actually didn't really care for in the first one.
That's right.
The first film.
Yeah.
I didn't actually care for it that much here.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say I like the idea that all the spiders have like of a look unto themselves, like an animation style, I guess, unto themselves. I thought that was cool, but it was too much for me. I don't know, like even when it wasn't all spiders, even when it was just like a train scene or something about it, and it really stuck out to me during the rooftop celebration of Miles's dad getting the promotion to captain. Like something about the fact that they're not real people, but the animation is so good and their movements just don't look quite right to me, and it just threw me off. I animated films like this are not for me. I just visually, like, I love the story, but visually they're just not for me.
Like Uncanny Valley stuff.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Interesting.
I felt some of that, especially when Miles was surrounded by characters from other universes. Like he looked a little too real compared to, you know, the people surrounding him. And maybe that's that, you know, that old cartoony style of, you know, you don't have to pay attention to this, so it's a little opaque, a little solid color or whatever, versus the bright shiny thing in the foreground. Like
Tyler's screen right now.
Yep.
No, I was gonna say like more like when you can tell where the trapdoor is in Scooby-Doo, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly that. But Miles looks a little bit too real.
Yeah. Yeah. But you know, there's a moment where we get to see the Vulture, right? And he, first of all, he looked cool as shit, right?
Yeah.
But also, you know, the way that the movie sort of clues you in on the fact that something is wrong is that he looks so different from anything that we've seen yet to that point. And so you go, at least I was going, oh, damn, I guess he's not supposed to be here. And that's the idea.
Yeah.
Even the police sketch you have of him, it's just like the normal Vulture that you see first. And then
right.
You see him, it's like, oh, wait, this is Da Vinci. Like, what is going on here? I love that design of the Vulture. I was really into that. I love the editor's note that popped up on the screen for when he did the hammer space, which is like a Spider-Ham reference. Where he just pull random stuff out of the ether.
Well, I mean, that's a cartoon reference. That's not just...
Yeah. But like, I was like, all right, yeah, they're leaning into this heavy. And then I like how this version of the Vulture is our first like anomaly that we see. It's a very different one. So it really sets the tone for like what we're going to see.
Yep.
Also, I don't know if this was considered at all on their part, but it makes sense that they would use the Vulture for that, considering the fact that he actually is an anomaly in the films as well, the live action films, because he's gone from the MCU into the Sony universe. So I don't know if that was if that was intentional, but yeah,
he's in the Michael Morbius movie.
yeah. So yeah, from that point forward, you know, we get introduced to Spider-Woman, which was really cool. And they went with the very brief period of time that Jessica Drew was pregnant, and they went with that idea, and they got Issa Rae to play the character in this film, and she's pregnant and riding around on a motorcycle and just doing cool badass shit, and she was one of my favorite characters in the whole film, although I wish they had done more with her.
And not only that, it's kind of a callback to Jessica Drew's first appearance. Before she was in the Marvel Comics proper, it was a tie-in comic to the animated series where she was black. And she did have an afro too and everything. So,
which animated series?
The like Amazing Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. Like it's like first Spider-Woman appearance in comics. She is black.
Well, thank you for telling me that. I didn't know that.
Did not know that. Yeah.
I actually can thank the Alamo Drafthouse for teaching me that beforehand, and then I fact checked it afterwards. But
Man,
yeah.
I miss the Alamo Drafthouse.
Sick. Yeah, so we get introduced to the idea that there are all these spider people across the Spider-Verse who are working together to, well, we don't know this at the time, but we learned it later, to maintain the canon, and to make sure that, you know, things go the way they're supposed to, and that no like outlier anomaly things happen that, you know, disrupt the status quo. Now, you do not have to be a rocket scientist to figure out that is making a commentary on comics. And I thought that was all brilliant. The idea that these characters are themselves made responsible for maintaining their own canon, that all the same things must occur, and they must occur across iterations of the same idea of a person. All Peter Parkers must lose their Uncle Ben, as an example. All Gwen Stacy's must lose, their Captain Stacy, their father, in order for things to go the way they're supposed to go. And my mind went to, well, that's interesting. So how is the canon enforcing Miles, right? And how does the canon keep Miles and other iterations of Spider-Man that we've seen since Peter from being able to be their own thing? Why do all the Spider people in the comics have to have a tragic backstory? Why do they have to be that way? Why do they all have to be quippy? Why do we have to maintain this as the status quo? And that's really the question that the movie is asking, but it's not just asking that about comics, it's asking that about people. It's asking that about human beings. And why do we choose to reinforce the canon of our lives and the narratives that we tell ourselves about what's true about us that we have to live out? Why? And I thought that as a statement was phenomenal.
I didn't. I had a similar thought, but with respect to Gwen, like, how does therein she stay a spider person, considering she's a Gwen, right? Is her fate and therefore canon not to die? And that was one point where I was like, when that got brought up, I'm like, oh wait, but she therein becomes an anomaly, no? So that was one part where like some of the logic of it fell apart, but you suspend your disbelief for this kind of thing.
I think that's what works, and I think that's why some of them there's ones that are teaming up that are different. Like like Gwen teams up, has that feeling with Miles where they mentioned the different ones, even before we learned about all that. But even before that, like we knew, like we see Hobie. Hobie is not a Peter as well. So there's that friendship that kind of is garnered there between him and Gwen and Miles too.
And so. to the question you're asking, Marco, I think it's very deliberate because I think the movie is not saying that she won't die the same way that all Gwens die. I think the movie is asking you to think about, well, then what's her fate? Because they have that conversation. And is she breaking the canon by having a relationship with a Miles and not a Peter? Those are all things that are playing into my mind that I expect that over the course of this trilogy, they'll deal with. And they play with it. How many times did they not show Gwen nearly Gwen falling, right? And then getting saved or something like that. Or Miles falling and her saving him. They played with all that a lot. And I'm not thinking she's going to die or anything like that. I'm thinking thematically they're trying to clue me in on the idea that I should be paying attention to the fact that this could be bad.
I think I interpreted it as Gwen is the Peter.
But she had a Peter.
Right. But the Peter was the Gwen. So because Gwen was bitten by the spider, she becomes the Peter. She becomes the spider person.
They're totems.
Therefore,
even in the comics, I consider them totems. Yeah.
Therefore, her Peter becomes the Gwen and dies.
Okay.
Yeah,
I can see
she
that.
was always supposed to be a Spider-Man while Miles wasn't.
Yeah. Therefore, even her dad, her Captain Stacy, toward the end of the movie, when he quits, he's no longer Captain Stacy. So she becomes another anomaly because he's not going to die.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So all the things that we're looking at and going, well, shit, how does that make sense with this? I think the movie is deliberately playing with those. And I love that part. I think that's very fun.
I think there's one loophole that I pointed out is like, this is like the only Miles, right?
That we've seen. Well, technically that's not true because we've seen another Miles by the end of the movie, but
the only Spider-Man Miles. I think they paused that, but I'm like, wait, video game Spider-Man's in there. There's a Miles there, but never mind. That's just me starting to poke holes into this, which you can. It's a web. So
that's fair, but if you really go down that rabbit hole, you would also have to consider the fact that the person playing the game is in the game. And wouldn't he just be insanely freaked out by that? So I assumed in my mind that the game wasn't the exact same game.
Yeah.
Fair.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Speaking of the game,
that's cool.
Speaking of the game, though, it was super cool to see the Spider-Man from the Marvel Spider-Man video game in the film, even though he was just there for a brief period.
Yeah.
They had a few,
Or Genki playing the
versions.
game too.
I'm sorry?
Genki was playing it in the dorm room too.
Yeah, absolutely. I meant like
the actual
him,
character model.
the character model among the
and the voice actor too. They got him back.
Yes.
For that, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they should have done more. He's so cool. People love that fucking guy. And how many people played that game?
Lorenthal, right?
Yeah, like
they got the other
was
voice
cool.
actor back from Spectacular too for this. So.
Yes. And there were so many times when they showed, and I'm curious to hear what you guys thought about this, where they showed like the live action Spider people.
Yeah.
And they used those, and Doc Ock, Alfred Molina's voice was used a lot. Anytime we heard a line come out of a Doc Ock character, it was Alfred Molina, and I thought that was super cool.
Oh, huh.
Yeah. And so they had all these different cameos. We saw Childish Gambino was there. That was great.
Which is
that.
MCU.
Cool.
That's our MCU character there.
Yep.
That explains why he's
Turns
not in
out
the
it
movies.
Love that.
And it's cool because like it insinuates, right, like he's not supposed to be there, something's off, and like that speaks again to that relationship with Sony and all that.
Yep.
Or
So
even
much
when,
meta shit there.
When Spot goes to the Venomverse for a minute.
Yo, yes,
Yeah.
and he speaks with Miss Kim.
Yeah.
And he picks out some Venommints.
I haven't
Yep.
seen those movies. Okay.
Oh shit, that's funny. Yeah.
I was like, oh, he's just in New York. That's what.
I mean,
That's
His
what
lead is
Bodega
just like, fuck it.
yeah.
It pulls together and it canonizes all of Spider-Man's appearances, at least, the major live action ones, and a lot of the television ones as well, like the animated series. So in that regard, I think that was super cool. A lot of people have been making comparisons to No Way Home and saying that, it does No Way Home better than No Way Home. I don't agree with that. I think it's a different kind of movie with different responsibilities. But in terms of respecting comics, it doesn't not only do it better than Spider-Man films, it does it better than every comic book film.
It also kind of solidifies it, like, oh, this is all part of the multiverse saga in a way, because we see Kang's timeline right before we see like the web of Spider. We see that MCU timeline from Loki right there. I'm like, all right, I see you guys are doing.
And like, there ain't no damn way in hell, right, that in an MCU movie we're going to see references to any of this.
No.
But the fact that and Sony's smart. I'll probably do a whole thing about that at another time. But like the fact that they continue to tether themselves to the MCU is so funny to me, and it's smart. It's smart.
I feel like we used to bash on that though. It was like the hangers on, or maybe not you, Sean. Maybe you had the foresight.
No. I bash it. But it's not stupid. I bash it because it's so obvious what they're doing.
Fair.
But I've always said Sony's playing 4D chess with Marvel.
My man read all the Sony emails. Like he been knows what's going on.
Boy, do I love it. So yeah, lots of cameos in this film. Go ahead.
You guys have a favorite cameo while we're on the discussion of that?
Yes, I think I do.
2D Spider-Man. When,
the animated series one where he swings in?
Yeah. He's like, he comes in, but then he's just like 2D object, and so Miles just goes right by him. Like that was
sick. I think Ben Reilly was a major one for me. I don't like as much what they did with his character, but the fact that he had an inner monologue was really good to me. I wish it wasn't as like hateful. Not hateful, but it felt like he was just a joke. And I didn't love that. But his look, if the whole movie looked like he looked, I would have been over the moon with the way it looked. Because Ben Reilly looked perfect. Like I couldn't believe it. Every time he was on the screen, I was like, is this even like, am I having a dream right now? How is this possible? Like, this
Andy
is so
Samberg
cool.
doing them too.
Yeah. And the other one for me was Amazing Bagman. He has no lines, but I just love that character.
Oh, I don't know if I saw him.
Blink and you miss it.
Yeah. Which was most of the cameos. Mine would have been the Donald Glover Prowler thing. That was insane to me.
Yeah.
Mine was I liked a web slinger, the cowboy one that was voiced by Taron
Oh,
Killam.
my
Apparently,
Voiced by who?
Taron Killam, SNL.
Oh yeah,
guy.
yeah.
And my other one was Moose Stereo.
Oh
Any
my
more
God, that
references to
was
Spider
funny.
Ham's world? I'm in for. Give me more of that. Give me that as a Marvel Snap variant, please.
Hell yeah. ASAP.
Also, Walrus was in one of those cages too, which like the Walrus is like one of like the loser characters that the Spot helps team up with, in the comics, so.
Of course,
Cool
you would
seeing
know that. I have no idea who that is.
Love those characters.
As cool as all that was, though, I think the concept of the Spider-Verse and what, Spider-Man 2099 put together, Miguel O'Hara, doesn't, to me personally, I don't believe in it, in the sense that I don't think that Spider-Man, right? I don't care which version it is, would leave his own universe to go and do this to leave their universe without a Spider-Man. The movie shows us what happens when a universe doesn't have a Spider-Man at the end. But what about all the universes whose Spider-Men are doing this?
Because we even see Peter, it's like a day job for him. So like MJ's like, oh, how was work? So like you got to assume they're away for a significant amount of time.
Right.
Yeah.
But maybe it's the case where it's like, oh, if something's going on in your universe, we'll be pinged for it. And we can send more people. The logistics of it are not very explained.
Yeah, and I think we get like a glimpse of that with the Lego Spider-Man. When he sees the Spot and calls in, and Miguel O'Hara's like, "You're the best one we've got."
Yeah, top agent. That was so good.
But to take what you said, Sean, a step further, what really doesn't make this work for me is the story engine of it all. So Miguel O'Hara set up this whole thing so that, everything that's canon has to happen. And Miles is punished because he helps the Indian Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And he wrecks the canon event. He stops it. And Miguel O'Hara's like, no, you cannot do that. And then when you explain the canon events and every Spider-Man has to have their Captain Stacy die, Miles says, oh my God, that's my dad. I've got to do something. Every Spider-Man in that building told him no. In what world would a Spider-Man not at least do something?
Yeah.
Save any person, not even just
inactive.
Yeah.
Inactive, yeah.
But at that point, aren't they saving any person by letting it happen? Because then we start to see that the rest of the world starts to get swallowed up, right? Like that becomes any person on the scale of millions and billions.
But that's what I'm saying. That's my problem with the story engine. Spider-Man doesn't think that way.
Yeah,
he just doesn't.
That's a Tony Stark way of thinking about things. Where Spider-Man is not like that.
I think what Kale's expressing, and I agree with this, is that the concept itself is tough to work with in a Spider-Man story because Spider-Man simply would find another way and wouldn't agree to this crazy cockamamie idea where we have to let people die. And if that was what the movie had to do, because it has something to say, I'm with that. But where's the emotional cost? These people, these spider people, are presumably, right? Because we only have 2 hours with the movie, but they've been doing this. So presumably they've maintained status quo of watching many Captain Stacy's die, many Uncle Ben's die, many this, that, and the other. How the hell are they dealing with that internally? How is Peter B. Parker so happy-go-lucky to just live his life when he's, course correcting every single day by ensuring the death of his own uncle or ensuring the death of Gwen Stacy, reliving this constantly? That doesn't destroy his brain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think the thin bit of characterization I got is that he has to live with the fact that this is just how it is,
right?
But that's not Spider-Man.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Spider-Man has had arcs in the comics where it's called No One Dies. Like it is a cornerstone to the character, no matter which Spider-Man it is. It's not a Peter Parker cornerstone. It's a Spider-Man cornerstone. So much so that the death of a loved one is also a cornerstone.
Spider-Man made a deal with the literal devil to keep his aunt alive. Like, that doesn't... Right. Like, Miguel O'Hara, his canon is a little, iffy, depending on, like, where you look at the character. And, like, he's got that 90s grimdark energy. You can see where he would, make this happen. But I don't understand any version of Peter Parker.
Or even Miles or Gwen, which I guess that's why they're the ones that are resisting. Yeah. I think the movie works a lot better in that regard if Miguel O'Hara is doing this alone. Or if he has conscripted specific Spider-Men whose universes are already gone to help him do this. Because their universes are gone.
Which is the actual SpiderVerse book, where there were a lot of people who lost their universes, and like that's how they get looped into things. So
yeah. We've dealt with this part a lot. Let's talk a little bit about the Spot. We haven't talked about Spot yet at all. Spot is, I guess you could say, one of the two primary antagonists, if you consider both him and Miguel O'Hara to be the antagonists of the film. He's treated like a joke. Right? For the first bit of it, you could tell he's powerful because it's crazy, right? What he's able to do. But the first meeting between him and Miles in this movie is very much like Miles is going about his day. As Spider-Man, he sees this crime happening. It's a goofy crime. Spot's trying to steal an ATM, but he sucks at it. And Miles just kind of, deals with him. He jobs him out, and that's that. And but we see that the Spot has an axe to grind with Miles, and he's got an ambition to be more, to rise to the occasion, to be able to be Miles's like top villain, like his primary antagonist. And I thought that was pretty interesting because every hero generally has their primary villain. They're a lot of times their analog. And Spot is trying to become that in Miles's life. And he goes to extremes to get that power. And I enjoyed personally watching his transition from a goofball to a legitimate threat to the entire multiverse.
Yeah, that I thought was so well done, because you underestimate him, right?
Right.
And I think because of that, when he comes back and he's just OP, like, oh shit, I probably shouldn't have done that. Like, we should not have laughed at this guy. Like there's that moment where they're in the reactor and they're like, we take it back. You're super serious. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, our bad. Because now you see it versus like what the potential could have been. And I think it was a really good device of him wanting to be more, because then you can kind of, to some degree, sympathize. Like, oh, he's a shitty villain with aspirations, right? That's ha funny. And then he does it, and you're like, oops.
It also mirrors Miles' story too. It mirrors the fact that Miles had to live up to Peter. In a way, he was the cause of his Peter's death in a weird way, roundabout way. So, having to live up to that is important. And it's cool to see that in a weird way being mirrored by the Spot.
Yeah, and we see Miles get a power boost, and he's more comfortable and confident in his skill sets. And I enjoyed that a lot. Having a villain who's also on their journey to become more powerful, I love that juxtaposition. Yeah. So the Spot ruled the whole time. I wish he was more. Like, I wish there was more of him here.
And I think using Jason Schwartzman as the voice, it's like, all right. He can be that jokey weirdo in the beginning, but Schwartzman can do menacing too. Like, I mean, Scott Pilgrim.
So. Trying to figure out who it was through the whole movie.
Yeah, same.
And then when the credits came on, and that was the first thing I said the whole movie. I was like,
Was he the same? Do you guys know if he was the same voice actor that played the character who becomes the Spot in the first?
I don't
film?
think that character had voice lines originally.
Yeah, I'm
I
assuming it
can't
wasn't.
imagine.
Yeah.
He was literally just the guy who had the bagel sound effect, and that's
Yeah.
the
Right.
only joke. Yeah.
Okay,
That was
fair
so
enough.
funny. That backstory also hilarious.
Yeah, but I love the fact that that's really in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You threw the bagel at me. He's like, what
Also,
are you talking about?
Second multiversal movie in the past year and a half to be caused by a bagel. So
Yeah, that's true.
everything
Not
everywhere
getting
all
that.
at once is based around the idea of an everything bagel.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah, not a joke. It's real.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Spot was awesome. Loved him a lot. How did you guys feel? We talked a little bit about it earlier, but the relationship between Miles and his parents. That was a huge central theme of the movie. We see him interacting with his parents a lot. And I love that. First of all, I thought his parents, the voice actors for them were fantastic. We had Brian Tyree Henry, who played Jefferson Davis. He's a tremendous actor. And then Luna Lauren Velez, who I absolutely adore.
Dexter,
I
right?
adore this woman. I've loved her for 20 plus years. She was in the television show that I feel like no one else but me watches.
Oz.
Go ahead, Tyler.
Is it Oz?
She was in Oz. I love that, but that's not the show I was referring to. I'm actually going back even deeper. I'm going to New York Undercover,
I haven't seen it.
which was one of Dick Wolf's earliest shows, but it's one where he wanted to showcase diversity because he felt like all diversity in television at the time was criminals. Let's make the cops, the minority people. And
Dick
she
Wolf,
played
okay.
one of the police on that show. Tremendous actress. And so, yeah, I really loved both of them. I thought that their interactions with Miles felt authentic.
It felt
It
very
felt
real. Yeah.
3 of the people on this show right now, right, have a parent, at least one parent who is of the like racial background of Miles's parents. And so I'm sure that each of us can say from our own experience that this shit felt real.
Yeah.
So, Marco, what was it like being on the outside of that?
Oh, dude, that was so fucking frightening. There were the moment where he's like he shrugs off the whatever. It didn't even have to pan.
Oh yeah, I know.
To that,
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, you fucked up, bro." Like,
Listen,
"Ee."
I have three white mothers, and I felt that whatever.
I think one of the ones that really got me was I guess somebody was mentioning how like I hear Spider-Man's Puerto Rican and then Miles goes, I don't know, it kind of feels Dominican to me.
Yeah, that was so good.
I was like, yeah, yep.
The Spanglish, like the switching between
Yes.
those things, very, very just like when he says goodbye to go after Gwen, like bendición, I'm just like, damn, okay.
Yo.
Like, yeah, you should be doing that shit. Yeah. Like there was just like reaffirmations of stuff that like has been a lived experience, and you're just like, word, you were raised all right.
Or when Miles's mom snaps her fingers and the sound effect is a Puerto Rican flag real quick, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, so good.
And that's one of the things that I think touches me about this movie in particular. I can't really remember the first one for this, but the fact that they're trying so hard. It feels like, and I don't mean like trying too hard, but they're trying to inject things that feel authentic about not just the characters that were coming into this loving, but the lived experiences that they would have if they were real people. Because Miles is Spider-Man, but he's also just a black and Spanish kid from New York.
Yeah.
And that should feel as real and authentic as the Spider-Man parts do. And I think you could even argue that maybe they nailed that even more.
Great
Absolutely.
moments.
Yeah. And it's even different in the comic because his mom's dead in the comics. So like we don't even, this is a dynamic we don't get. And also it's a dynamic that Peters don't get. So that it even separates Miles from the rest of everyone in another way as well.
Yeah, 150%. And I'm happy that we got a fucking superhero movie, right? Where the main character is not grieving the loss of their parents. Like that is a factor in the movie. Like he's worried about his dad because of everything that's going on, but like they're there. He gets to learn life lessons from them and have interactions with them. He got to disappoint them which I also appreciated because we've all been there as well. And there's lessons to be learned. You know, one of the things that struck me so much going to the film was how many young people I saw, right? Like I saw so many young people, 15, 16, like young teenagers, younger adults in their early 20s, people dressed up in costumes, so many of them who looked like me, right? And I'm going, well, shit, this movie is perfect for them.
Yeah.
Because they're still in that. You know, their parents are still telling them, you know, hey, you better come with the cake, right? And you better get here on time, and you better do this and that and the other thing. Like, I love that for them. And I wish that when I was 15, there was something like this. So
yeah, it felt very much like, and I think there were moments in there where it just like felt like New York moments sometimes of like, oh, like this, like, yeah, this is where we would be celebrating. Yeah, this would be like what would the DJ like puts the volume up because you're having an argument. It's like, word, I feel like good looks, like thank you, like I see that, like you're disciplining your kid, I got you, like so
in a Spanish household especially, the discipline has to happen, but we're gonna let that happen over there and we're gonna party because there's nothing stopping this party.
Yep, so good, just so good.
Yeah, kid licking the subway window.
That was disgusting. If you live in New York, that moment gave you douche chills.
That kid's immune to COVID. COVID.
I've seen that kid on the train though.
That kid dropped dead then.
And Spider-Man wasn't there to save him. Yep.
Oh my goodness. Cool. So love all the parental stuff. I thought there were tremendous moments there. We agreed earlier that it probably, you know, maybe there was a little bit too much of it. But
I disagree.
Oh, fair enough. But it's good. What's there is good.
Definitely.
100%.
Definitely.
Right.
Agreed. Yep.
So let's move on and talk about, I guess, where for me, the movie started to maybe lose me a little bit. And I 100% started picking my phone up and looking at the time. It's when yeah, and I never pick up my phone at the movie theater, but I was just like, yo, when is this ending? And actually, this is the very first time I took notes while watching a movie because my girlfriend wasn't there, so I felt comfortable to pull my phone out and type. But it's when they save, you know, the captain of Mumbattan, right? Yeah. The captain that wasn't supposed to be saved, that was supposed to die there. And they go back to the, you know, HQ of the SpiderVerse or whatever. And Miguel's really pissed. And he's like, you know, you weren't supposed to do that. And like all that other good stuff. Once they decide that they're going to chase Miles, and the first like 2 minutes of it, I'm like, oh man, this is like intense. I don't actually know how long that was, but it felt really, really, really long. I was completely exhausted by it. Too many characters, too much going on. I don't believe that they couldn't get Miles. That's just, to me, ridiculous. And by the time he gets out of that situation, I already kind of didn't care because you know he's going to get out. So it's like, make that part interesting and harrowing. And I don't feel like they did that, at least not for me. I was really frustrated and I was disappointed that all these spider people were down to do this. It feels not like Spider-Man, and we already dealt with that, so I'm not going to delve too deeply into it, but it just didn't feel right to me that Spider-Man just doesn't do this. I just don't believe in it. They lost me with that.
I didn't believe that they wouldn't catch him either. Like all these Spider-Men, like, come on, you get got. And I was expecting like a prisoner sequence or something like following. I genuinely wasn't expecting him to escape.
Yeah.
Like I can see maybe Peter Parked car or Spider-Saurus. Like they might have issues.
Right.
But yeah.
Yo, Spider-Saurus, so amazing.
His sound effect was T-HIH. It was like T-whip instead of
amazing.
That was pretty
like they have to have dealt with this before, right? Like this can't be the first time that a Spider-Man has resisted their agenda.
Right.
So they just couldn't catch Miles for some reason. Nah.
Yeah, I'm with you up to the point of like well, the chase and not being able to catch him. I'm with you there. But I had the moment of you know, where like, you know, your mind goes with the protagonist. You know, the Miguel was explaining the whole thing, and you're like, "What? No, Spider-Man. What? Come on!" But then, like, Miles is surrounded, and he realizes he's surrounded, and then Miguel drops like the trap on him, and then I got claustrophobic. Oh no!
And that was cool, and I like to see that he used what he learned already to be able to get out of that situation.
Yeah.
And all of that was so good, right? Like, Spider-Punk's involvement in that, and him kind of like teaching Miles what he's going to need to know later.
Dude, can we just talk about Spider-Punk real quick? I thought he was a standout for me.
He was so cool.
Hobie Brown is the best.
Hobie Brown, played by Daniel Kaluuya, who was a tremendous actor that I was glad that they got for this role. Tyler, you probably would know this.
Yeah.
Hobie Brown is the Prowler, right?
Yes, that is the same name. Yeah.
Oh.
The OG Prowler, like from the main continuity, is Hobie Brown. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They had to change that for reasons.
But dude, the way the animation was for him, looking like a Sex Pistols kind of like garage band poster, it was amazing.
Yo, when he took his like mask off and all that hair was there and shit.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible.
And also, like, I like how he kind of was like a shitheel punk. Like, he just did what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
Like, and like, but the whole time you're like, why is he a part of this? What is he? And he was like, no, I don't need to. Like, so yeah.
But it also, like, I think also in like the punk fashion of it all is also like, it showed he was a good person because all his shitty little punk things added up to something good.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. We never see him do anything that's like, you know, morally wrong. He marches to the beat of his own drum, you know, and he's like, hey, Tyler, you're muted.
Oh, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes. There we go. Yeah.
I was going to say he's anti-establishment, and that whole SpiderVerse thing, that's an establishment. So.
Yeah.
Right.
He grabs a bracelet here, a battery there. Who's going to miss it? That's not going to hurt anything.
And also, I let Daniel Kaluuya just like talk in his own accent. I believe like the story, the premise they give, he mentions Daniel Kaluuya's actual hometown in England too.
Oh, sick. Okay.
So like canonically, Hobie is from Kaluuya's actual hometown. So cool little touch there.
I do have one thwip with an editor's note. I believe not having a Scooby-Doo is actually Scouser slang, not Cockney slang.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
So when you would say something, you would say, I don't have a Scooby.
Well, they should have hired you.
Fucking telling me. I have a Spider-Man.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I got one.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. That's sick.
Cool as shit.
I have never been captured more accurately than this right here.
So Kale is holding up an image of a spider sona that was drawn for him, and I believe it was done around the time of the initial Into the Spider-Verse film. And it is done by Kale. That was Letty, or was that Nori?
Oh geez. So this one is Letty. The one I'm holding up now is Letty. This is my official unique spider sona. And the reference I was pointing to there was I'm very sadly eating a bowl of cereal, and that's could not be more accurate. This one is me as Spider Rider. This one is by Nori, and it's a mix of my Spider Sona as a Common Rider as well.
Nice.
Beautiful. Wish we all had that. So, go ahead, Tyler.
Which Earth is that from? Earth 69?
Earth 2114.
Got it.
Wow. Yeah. So then we kind of get to the end. Miles, he miraculously escapes that situation. I did like him getting a little bit of help from the Avatar spider
bite
person.
Oh, that was
Bite. Spider Bite.
Yeah, she was awesome. Yeah. But then Miles ends up, back in his home, back in his room, and he's having a conversation with his mom. And I don't know about you guys, but immediately I was like, oh, He ain't where he's supposed to be.
I knew right
Because
away.
Word?
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't.
Well,
See-
you know right away because you see when he gets scanned, it says Earth 42.
Well, see, I didn't catch that. The numbers to me, it goes out the door.
Yeah, I caught that, but I was just like, oh, surely he's going back to the same whatever.
Yeah.
I didn't
42
make the
sticks with
connection.
me because it's Jackie Robinson's number and it repeats constantly throughout these movies.
Right. But just the way it looked, something felt off to me about it.
What for me, he picks up a purple hoodie, and I went, purple one. Okay, that feels weird. Fine.
Purple hoodie and green jacket too. So like
Yeah,
the color
yeah.
theory is like, oh, that's Prowler colors. What's going on here? Yeah.
Yeah.
His mother's comment on his hair, there were some clues, but even still, the moment where the door opens, and they did such a great job in terms of how they showed this, because you see, Miles's father walking up the stairs. He's headed back to the apartment, and you think that he's headed home and he's going to walk through the door, and the door opens and it's not him. It's actually his brother, who in this universe is dead. So, or rather, in Miles's universe is dead. In this one, though, the one that Miles is now in, he's alive. And not only is he alive, but he's, helping support, Miles and his mom, who no longer have Jefferson Davis in the family.
Right.
Then we see that, who we believe is the Prowler, Miles's uncle, is taking him somewhere, and it's like, oh, wait. So and I don't know about you guys, but in my mind, I'm like, oh, shit. In this universe, Miles works with his uncle.
Right. That's what I thought. Yep.
Right. And they're selling drugs, right? That's where my mind went to. Then we get the big twist and reveal that the Prowler in this universe is Miles himself.
That was cool.
And that this is the universe that does not have a Spider-Man, because the spider from here ended up in Miles's universe and bit him instead.
And you can hear like Jonah Jameson on the newscast mention the Sinister Syndicate runs the place.
Yeah.
And every time, by the way, that we heard Jameson's voice, it was I can't remember his name right now. J.K. Simmons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the only constant in all these universes.
And Alfred
As he
Molina,
should be.
apparently.
Yeah.
This was huge for me. I hate the fact that it ended on a cliffhanger. I just straight up don't like that. But seeing Miles as the Prowler, seeing him as a bad guy, was so huge for me, because that tied the whole movie together in a way.
Yeah.
Miles' life is great. He's got his dad and his mother. They're successful people. He goes to a great school. Everything is roses. You couldn't really ask for a lot more than that, It's a beautiful life. That is not the canon for most of the people that look like him. Reinforcing the canon of somebody that looks like Miles leads to what we saw at the end of the movie. People that look like Miles, that come from his background, that have, that come from the inner city, what's the projected outcome for them? Not great. You lose your father, which a lot of us do, to drugs, to, alcohol, to the streets, to prison, to death, whatever. The outcome that we see at the end of the movie is canon for a lot of the people that look like Miles. And that's the canon that everybody's trying to reinforce. Now, I know that I'm applying, real lived experience to the movie, but in my opinion, the movie asks you to do that nonstop. So why wouldn't I do it now?
Yep.
That's the reason why they have to stop reinforcing the canon and find another way. And that's what we're supposed to do as human beings in our real lives. What's that for us? Statistics.
So you're saying because the spider didn't stay in that, like without the canon that is what his life would have been without a Spider-Man. Like
forget
without,
this. Forget a spider anything. I'm talking about the canon of the life of a Black Spanish teenager who grows up in New York. What's the statistic for that person? It's the end result of this movie. Like that sequence, that moment, him being bad, him being someone who contributes to the negative of society, him becoming another statistic. That's the end result of enforcing the canon for people who look like us. Breaking the canon for people like you and I, Marco, is rising above. It's doing better. It's our parents hopefully having set a better example, which we see happen to Miles. That's Miles' experience. But that's not the canon for most people who look like Miles.
but didn't they also break canon by not getting the spider in that?
You're thinking too much of plot. Sean's talking about symbology of it.
Yeah, I get that, but I guess what I'm saying is the symbology works in the vacuum. Then, like it where it doesn't work inside the vacuum of this film. Then
I think it does, because the movie is telling you the canon was broken by the spider not being where it was supposed to be, right? Something was amiss. So if you just watch the movie and you're not thinking like me, whatever, it works fine. I'm talking about what's underneath what we see with our eyes.
Yeah. The idea is that this is the world without a Spider-Man, but the inverse of that is what could Miles' life have been like if he A, was never Spider-Man, or B, didn't have a father figure. So it's this weird antithesis to what Miles actually, his life wound up being because of the anomaly.
Go ahead, Kale.
Or had the wrong father figure.
Right.
Sure.
And it's a lot more like Peter's life than Miles.
Yeah.
Except that when you have Peter's life, but you're Black, it ends up, not always, of course, I'm not saying this is a literal 100% fact, but it ends up at times the way that the movie ends. And so I'm saying I'm applauding the fact, and I don't know, again, this is just what I got out of it. I'm applauding that because that felt real to me, and that made me look at the whole movie differently, because I'm like, damn, we have to stop enforcing the canon.
How'd you feel when
let people be?
His uncle was like, "Oh, so you took your braids out?" I was like, that was an interesting little comment there. But I was like, oh, okay. And then you see Miles with those braids and everything. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, man. I
had relatives who looked exactly like Miles in that universe too. Yeah.
100%. Dude, my uncle died from gun violence due to selling drugs. My father has more in common with the Prowler than Jefferson Davies. This is my story.
Yeah.
I broke the canon. You know what I'm saying? Like, I broke the statistic. So that's what I got out of it, because I saw my life in the juxtaposition between the life that this Miles really has and the life that the Miles from that universe has, and how you end up with both. But anyway, I've gone on enough about it. Yeah. So the movie ends on a cliffhanger. We have to wait a year to see where things are going to go.
I think March is the tentative release date.
March.
A little less.
Okay.
A little less.
Hopefully they meet that.
Yeah.
I really, really, really don't like the cliffhanger aspect of it, but I like the actual like sequence itself.
One of the other things I don't like about the cliffhanger is, in terms of structure, we are at the build up, and I feel like we're about to hit the climax. Like, how do you do a whole movie based on that?
Just like this conversation.
Yeah, but like, how do you do a movie? Like, it's just like,
yeah,
it's just gonna be one big mess of a battle, and then denouement, you know, like.
Well, I imagine for the next film, we're gonna see an arc with, a full Miles arc.
I guess so.
Yeah.
You know,
Miles has to change his own mind.
Yeah.
He has to save himself. The Earth 42 version of himself.
Sure. Yeah.
And break the canon. And I love that. I think that's awesome.
Interesting. Because, if you think about Into the Spider-Verse, it's sort of Miles changing Peter's mind. This one ends up being changing Gwen's mind. So the next one will be changing his own.
Oh shit, Kale, you're cooking. You came to cook.
What is Kale,
Okay.
right or
man.
something?
That Ron V conversation, my head hurts so much, but I've never wanted to write so bad.
So, final thoughts on the film as we close out.
Excellent. I loved every minute of it. This was an innovation in animation, and the first one was in the first place, and somehow they've built upon that and expanded it and continue to innovate, and that to me is absolutely incredible. I think the story here is it starts off small and gets big in such a really clean way that I think it just leaves me hungry for this third film. I came into this with, like excited and with high expectations, and it exceeded that, and now I'm going to go into the next film similarly, like excited, ready for more. And if they do, even if they maintain this as like baseline, cool, you've completed an incredible story. But if they continue to do more on top of this, and that's 3 homers and back to back.
For me, I really like this. I did really like it. I just feel weird talking about it as a whole because there's no hole. The only holes we get in this is Spot and his holes. But yeah, it just feels weird because it's not done, So I think I can only really say, did I like it? Yes or no? And the answer is yes, I did.
Yeah, I feel very similar. I think if you liked Into the Spider-Verse, you're gonna like Across the Spider-Verse. This one does a lot more with more characters. You get a lot more of Miles' life, you get a lot more of Gwen's life. And it does a great job of building all that up and making you anticipate what's coming. If you haven't seen it yet, heads up on the visual aspect, your head's gonna hurt.
You have epilepsy, maybe not.
And we didn't bring it up, but the music in the first one was phenomenal. The music in this one also so good. Everything just was like set to this great background, whether it be hip hop, whether it be ambient, whether it be just like rock moments for each of the characters. I've loved every minute. I shared the playlist because the official album's not out, but it's in our Discord, so like all those songs or whatever people have been able to figure out is collected there.
I think the first film's music was better, actually.
Okay.
Was this movie better than the first one?
No.
I think so.
You can't judge it.
Yeah, I feel like I can't
It's not
answer
finished.
That. Yeah.
I think I like this package more than I did the first movie, as of right now.
No, I don't. By that metric, no.
So for me, I did not like the first one that much. I think I like this one a lot better. This movie, I felt like it was saying things that were important to me as an individual, more than the first one. And it included, look, I am a Marvel whore. Okay. I love Marvel comics. And so when you throw in cameos, you are never going to hear me complain about fan service. Like, if it's for me, I'm into it. So
and the fan service was good. Like there were moments I'm like, this is egregious. You're taking advantage. You didn't deserve this. You didn't earn this. Everything for me was just like, yeah, you've worked your way up to this. I know enough about the multiverse to understand that you're being like cheeky with it, but not in any way that was excessive.
I thought the archive footage from Amazing and the original Spider-Man was a little much, but
fuck it. It's a story with a lot of heart, a lot of soul. I think it will connect with you as an individual on a lot of levels, especially if you are a person who is a minority, I think you'll find a lot of the DNA of your lived experience lies in this film to some degree. I had a lot of fun with it. I enjoyed most of it, but towards the end, it really lost me. And the fact that it ends on a cliffhanger is a huge no-no, in my opinion. And so I will give this a 7.5. I think. And if it didn't end on a cliffhanger, and if the chase scene was, 20 minutes shorter, I'd probably give it a lot higher score. But yeah.
Damn.
I give it an 8.5.
All right, I'll give it an 8.
I think so far it's my favorite comic book movie of the year.
Oh yeah.
What the hell else do we have
Yeah,
this
yeah.
year? Oh yeah, Quantumania.
Flash.
Flash is coming
3.
up.
Guardians 3 was pretty good.
Guardians 2 was excellent.
Guardian 3 was pretty good. Oh yeah.
Damn.
This still tops that for me because, and I think I've said this. If you can get me in a film where I'm also Spider-Man, fuck it, I'm in.
Marco, did you give a score?
No,
if you want to. You don't have to, obviously.
Damn. I'm gonna say 9.5. Shit was fire.
Wow. Okay. So, Tyler, I don't think you.
Yeah, I feel weird doing it. If I had to, like an 8, maybe. That would be a 4 out of 5. Yeah, that fits for me.
Shit, if an 8's a 4 out of 5, I don't know if I feel like a 4 out of 5. Anyway, we don't actually care about all that type of shit. Thank you guys so much for listening. We really appreciate you. We have a lot more content. If you're into this, if you're new to us, but you like this, our backlog is deep. It goes 6 years. We reviewed nearly every comic book movie that's come out. We talk about weekly comics every single week. We talk about the industry of comics. We do hard-hitting interviews with the top tier creators in comics. So check us out. We are the Comics Pals all over social media. You can watch us live every Saturday at 10:15 a.m. Eastern, and Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern for Pals Pulls, which is our comic book review show. Our Patreon page is the place where we feel most supported by you guys and where we are offering a lot in return for that support. So check us out. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you across the Spider-Verse for the next one. Take care, guys.
Whip to it, baby.